Good morning to all my dear students, and you all are welcome in the social science class of standard 7. So today I am here before you, your social science teacher, with geography section today. So today I am going to start geography, children. So in the class 7 geography section, children, you are going to read about our environment. Okay, the environment of our earth and all the different forms which are found in our environment, and what are the different components which are forming our environment. So this is what we are going to read in this class 7th, our environment in detail in the form of different chapters. So here you can see that this section, let me zoom it out for you. This section consists of geography section in which we are going to read our environment in the form of these different chapters. And here you can see below to it we have unit number 2, which includes medieval period. So this is a history section, and then before it, below to it, you can see unit 3, in which we are going to read the social and political life in the discipline of political science. So these many topics we are going to read in the political science. Okay. So this way you can see, children, that here our geography, our social science book is consisting of 3 units, and these units are the 3 disciplines or the 3 streams of social science. That is, this part is geography, unit 1 is geography, unit 2 is history, and unit 3 is political science. Okay, so but I am here before you to begin with the chapter number 1 of geography section, that is the earth's structure and the landforms. So children, in the class 6th, in the previous class you have studied about the earth, our earth as a unique planet, that our earth is very unique planet in this solar system. It is called because of the presence of life on it, right? So earth is the only planet and unique planet because it is having the life supporting system, and because of this only the life is possible on this earth. And we all live on this earth. Here we find everything. Okay, all the suitable conditions are present here, favorable conditions are present on this earth. Okay, so for example, water, oxygen, land, food, trees, plants, etc. And but here we also live with a number of things which are existing around us. Okay, for example, our teachers are there in the school. Okay, so in the school you get different kind of environment with the different people. And who are the people? They are forming the school environment. They are your teachers. Then we have the peons also, classmates are there. Then you have the, and if you talk about the natural things in the school, you're having the beautiful garden with the lovely flowers. Then you have the grass, walls, school buses, books, bench, pen, pencil. So all these the different kinds of living things and non-living things are forming your school environment. And if you observe all these things very carefully, you will find that some of the things are alive when some other things are lifeless. In the same manner, some naturally available things are also present around us, and they all are the nature's gifts, while others are the outcome of the skill and the efforts and the hard work of the human beings. Okay, so whether these are the natural or man-made things, we need them in our day-to-day lives. So these things that surround us together, they form our environment. So thus environment is our basic life support system, and this is because it provides us the air we breathe, the water we drink, the land where we live, and the food which we eat. So this way we have seen, children, that our surroundings is consist of the living things and the non-living things. Okay, so here we can see that the physical and the biological conditions in which an organism lives make up its environment. So the term environment is derived from a French word called environner. It means surroundings. In simple terms, we can say that whatever we see in our surroundings is collectively called our environment. That is the place where you live, the people to whom you meet every day, your friends, your classmates, your teachers, and the things which you use in your daily life, and the nature that surround any living organism is called the environment. So these surroundings can be divided into 2 categories. Okay. Yes. So here first of all we can also they say that those components of organism that are provided by nature, they are forming our natural environment. And our natural environment has two types of components, physical and the biological. Okay, so that is why we can say that our surroundings is composed of the two categories, natural and the man-made things. If we talk about the natural environment, first of all we'll see that our physical environment, our natural environment has two types of components which include physical environment and the biological environment. So physical environment components such as temperature, light, air, water, solid landforms, they all are forming our physical environment, and all the living things which are having the life like plants, animals, trees, human beings, birds, insects, they all make up our biological environment. So overall children, we can say that physical environment and biological environment, they are the part of our natural environment. Now moving ahead children, our environment consists of two main components, the natural and the man-made. So here we can see children here in this para that all the things which are found on this earth are not natural things. Okay? Some are the human made things also, man made things also. For example, roads, bridges, electricity, buildings, your school, your hospital, colleges, gardens, museums, they all are human made or man made things. So they are also man's creation. So they are also part of our environment. And anything which is happening, any changes or anything which is taking place in our society, okay, anything which is happening socially, economically, politically, all these things, all these factors are also affecting our lives. So all these things that naturally existing around us, they are together forming our environment. Now we will read about the changes in the environment. Our topic number 2 is changes in the environment. So any change which is happening in the environment, it is also affecting our lives also. In nature, lot many processes, natural phenomena are there which are taking place since last thousands of years. Okay, for example, we can see here the respiration of the living organisms, okay, the decay of organic matter, burning of the fuels, oxygen, releasing of oxygen, and exchange of the gases of oxygen, carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. These are all natural phenomena which are taking place in our environment since a long time. And this is how the maintenance of the balance of the gases remain constant in the environment. Then we can also see here children that environment refers to everything that surrounds and influences an organism or living thing. And any changes in the physical environment brings about a change in the biological environment also, and vice versa. Then we can see children here. So these are the natural phenomena like photosynthesis, respiration. These all are the natural phenomena which are maintaining the balance of oxygen and gases in the atmosphere. But on the other hand, there are some human activities like deforestation and the cutting of the trees, okay, and the removal of the vegetation. They all are leading to soil erosion and loss of soil fertility. So several fertile areas which were transformed into wastelands and deserts, and water is also getting polluted due to oil spilling in the seas, in the oceans, and industries are also burning a lot of fossil fuels which are producing excess amount of carbon dioxide that disturb the balance of various components in the air. And the increase, as there is an increase in the amount of carbon dioxide, there is an increase in the greenhouse gases, and that is why what is happening nowadays, there is a rise in the global temperature, which is resulting in the rise of air pollution. And that is why, children, we are also observing many important days also, and many for awareness programs are also have been started by our government, so that we should have the awareness and we should work for the protection of our environment. Now we are moving to our next topic of this chapter, spheres of the earth. So the land on which we live, children, okay, the land on which we live is not man-made thing. It has been created through a natural process. Similarly, air, water, natural vegetation, etc., they also occur naturally. So hence the land refers to the lithosphere, while air, water indicate atmosphere and hydrosphere respectively. And the plants and animals are the major parts of the biosphere. Okay, so in this topic we are going to read about the four spheres of the earth, the four realms of the earth, and they are also known as four major domains of the earth. So the first major domain of the earth is lithosphere, L for litho and L for land. So lithosphere is the, as you can see here in this picture also, the lithosphere is the outermost solid crust or the hard top layer of the earth. Lithosphere has many ups and downs, and it consists of different types of landscapes such as mountains, plateaus, okay, and hills, valleys. The lithosphere is also made up of various rocks and minerals, and these landscapes are also found over the continents and the ocean floors. And the lithosphere is covered with a thin layer of the soil, and this soil helps us to grow different types of plants and shrubs. As you can see in this pic, this is a picture showing the biotic and the abiotic factors. You can see through the pictures, once again you can have the recap of the biotic and the abiotic factors. Biotic means biological, that is the living things, and the abiotic means physical, that is the non-living things. Okay, so yes, so we were talking about the lithosphere. In the lithosphere is covered up with a thin layer of the soil, and this soil helps us to grow the different types of plants and shrubs, which provides us food, okay, not only the human beings but to the animals also. Then the second sphere of the earth is atmosphere. So the thin layer of the thin layer or the gaseous layer of the air that surrounds the earth is known as the atmosphere, and it reaches up to a height of 1600 kilometers from the earth's surface. The atmosphere is held around the earth by the gravitational force. Then third sphere is hydrosphere. As you can see here, hydrosphere. So the domain of water is referred to as hydrosphere. And what consists of our hydrosphere? The oceans, seas, lakes, rivers, they are collectively forming our hydrosphere. Hydrosphere is very essential for human beings, plants and animals. And without water, life is not possible, as without air the life is not possible. In the same manner, without hydrosphere, the life is not possible, and about 71% of the earth's surface is covered with water, and it provides us a great variety of seafoods and minerals. And our fourth sphere is very important. This is a biosphere. As you can see, biosphere means life zone. It means the living world. It contains of all forms of life such as plants, animals, human beings, etc. So what is biosphere? Biosphere is a narrow zone. It is a narrow zone of the earth where we get all our other three realms. Like we get here land also, we get here water also, and we get here air also. So the narrow zone of the earth where land, water and the air, they interact with each other to support the life. So biosphere is a significant part of the earth, and it is a part of the earth that is occupied by the living organisms, and it extends from less than 11 kilometers below sea level to the tropopause. Okay, tropopause, which is the first layer of the air, which we'll read in the next topic, our next topic in detail. What is troposphere? The troposphere right now, troposphere is the layer where we all live. It is the first layer of the atmosphere. So it provides, biosphere provides us with the suitable favorable conditions for the life. And here we find both the environment, our biotic also and abiotic environment. That is, here we find our natural environment also, our physical environment also, as well as our biological environment also. So both the physical and the biological environment are interdependent upon each other, and they provide a variety of food and raw materials to us, and all the plants, animals and human beings, they depend upon their surroundings. And the interrelation between human beings and their surroundings form an ecosystem. Now children, we are going to move on to the next topic of the chapter, that is structure of the earth. So in the structure of the earth, we are going to read about the layers of the earth. So scientists believe that the earth is approximately 4 to 5 billion years ago. 4 to 5 billion years old our earth is. It is a belief of scientists. And according to scientists only, the earth is originated as an extremely hot mass of gas and molten materials. Then it cooled down slowly to form the solid crust or lithosphere. And at present there are a variety of landforms. Okay, we can see around us variety of landforms are there, such as we have plains, mountains, valleys are there, gorges are there, plateaus are there. So they all have spread across the world. And our direct source of information regarding the earth's interiors are, as we can see here children, as we all have heard in general, that the temperature of the earth below the surface of the earth is very higher. So in the interior part of the earth, the temperature and pressure is very higher. So how do we have got the information? So we have got the information through the indirect sources like volcanic eruptions, then the deep mines are there, and also the earthquake vibrations are there. Okay, so with the help of the earthquake vibrations only, the scientists, they just determine the depth of the layer of the different layers of the earth, because these layers, these earthquake vibrations are also known as seismic waves. So when these seismic waves or the earthquake vibrations are produced, so when they are coming and crossing through the different rock materials under the surface of the earth, so through their speed only, through their path only, the scientists are able to determine the types and the arrangements of the material through which the earthquake vibrations are passed and reaching on the surface of the earth. So these are some of the, we can say, the indirect sources of information. Okay, and as we have read that the earth is a very huge sphere with a radius of about 6,400 kilometer. So we cannot go, it is not possible children for to go at the central part of the earth. Why? Because the central part of the earth, which is also known as core, 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 so the central core is having a very high temperature and pressure. And also to meet this purpose, we are required to dig a hole with a depth of 6,000 kilometer on the ocean floor. So is it possible for us? No, this is not possible for us. So the depth of the deepest known mine in the world is only 4 kilometer, which is lying in the South Africa. So to get the mineral oils, engineers have to dig a hole of 6 kilometers deep. Okay. So what is then our indirect sources? Volcanic eruptions and the earthquake vibrations. Through these only we come to know about the depth and also the different materials and the layers which are present under the surface of the earth. So now one by one children, we are going to read in detail on the basis of the composition and on the basis of properties of the rocks and their density. The earth is divided into three concentric layers, and these are, number one is the crust, number two is the mantle, and the number three is the core. Yes, now let us see what is core children here. Our first layer is the crust. Okay, so the uppermost solid thin outermost layer of the earth is called the crust, and this crust is not uniformly thick. It is not thick uniformly Okay, it is thicker under the continents and thinner under the oceans. And that way the crust is very thin layer and it is having the average thickness of about 35 kilometers. And it is thicker under the continents and thinner under the oceans. And this crust is divided into two parts, the continental crust and the oceanic crust. And the thickness of the crust varies from 5 to 8 kilometer beneath the oceans to an average of 35 kilometers under the continental mass. See, as we can see here. So we have here two types of crust, the oceanic crust and the continental crust. And the oceanic crust is more heavier, thicker, denser as compared to the continental crust. But the depth is, in terms of, right now we have read that the thickness of the earth crust is varying. Okay. So the crust is found in the form of a continuous single surface, but in the form of several moving plates. And here only we have our continents and oceans moving. So the continental crust extends to about 50 kilometers beneath the continents. Okay. And it is made up of two layers. The continental crust is made up of two layers, silica and the aluminium. Okay. The minerals are silica and the aluminium, and collectively they are known as Sial. So the uppermost layer of the continental crust is made up of Sial. Sial means C plus L. C stands for silica, L stands for aluminium. While the lower layer or Sima is made up of silica and the magnesium. The oceanic crust, it lies below the ocean. Okay, in the form of ocean beds we can say, in the form of sea floor we can say. So the oceanic crust lies below the ocean and it's about 6 kilometers thick. Okay, so it is much thinner than the continental crust and has just one layer of Sima, which is made up of basaltic rocks and gabbro. Still, the oceanic crust is quite denser and heavier. Okay, thicker is continental crust, but actually the oceanic crust is more heavier and denser than the continental crust. That is why what happens, children, whenever the earthquake comes or whenever these oceanic crust and the continental crust is colliding against each other, then what happens? The oceanic crust goes down. Okay, it goes down. We can say it subsides down, and the continental crust, it goes up. It moves up. And now we are going to read about the second layer, which is the mantle. Okay, the mantle. Now here example is also given here. Example, the Mount Everest is the highest mountain peak in the world, which is having the height of 8,848 meters above the sea level, while the world's deepest point is the Mariana Trench, which is found in the Pacific Ocean, and it is having the height of 11,034 meters below the sea level. And now the second layer is the mantle. So mantle is also known as a mesosphere. Okay, the mantle or the mesosphere is a term which is used for the second layer of the earth, and it lies beneath the crust and extends up to the core of the earth, and it is having the average depth, or we can say the average depth is 2,900 kilometer. Okay, so the average depth or thickness is 2,900 kilometer of the mantle. The mantle is made up of rocks which are more denser, more heavier than those which are forming our crust. Now the mantle is made up of two parts, the upper mantle and the lower mantle, depending upon the temperature and the pressure conditions. The mantle is of two layers. Okay, so temperature and the pressure, they cause the rocks to be solid or semi-solid. So the temperature of the mantle is extremely higher because it contains molten magma. Okay, and molten magma is formed due to the molten rocks. Okay, because of extremely high temperature, as we are going deeper and deeper into the earth in mantle, because of extremely high temperature, the rocks are melted. So these melted rocks are only known as molten magma. So the temperature of the mantle is extremely higher because it contains molten magma, which are coming to the surface as lava. Okay, so these are two different terms, lava and magma. Molten material, as long as it is in magma, as long as it is in the earth surface, under the surface of the earth, it is known as magma. And through volcanic eruption, when it comes out of the earth surface, it is known as lava during volcanic eruptions. And iron and magnesium and silicon are the major constituents or minerals of the mantle. And the uppermost mantle of the solid rocks extends from the crust downwards to a depth of 75 km to 100 kilometers. And the middle part is extending till 300 kilometers of mantle. And here in till 300 kilometer, from 700 kilometer to 300 kilometer, the heat, the temperature, heat or pressure is extremely higher. It is very intense. So that is why the rocks are partially molten here, and therefore in a fluid state also. And the rocks of the lower mantle are solid due to high intense heat and high pressure. Now this is a well-labeled diagram, as you can see here, children. Now let us move to the third part, the third layer of the earth. Can you guess it what it is? It is the core. Now with the help of this diagram we are going to understand. This is our core. So the earth's innermost layer is known as the core. It is also known as barysphere. B-A-R-Y, Bary, S-P-H-E-R-E, sphere. And this layer has a thickness of about 3,500 kilometer. And it is the densest layer. It is mainly made up of heavy metals, particularly nickel and iron. Iron is also known as ferrum. Okay. This is why it is known as knife. N-I-V-E, knife. Ni stands for nickel, Fe stands for ferrum, and ferrum is the chemical or scientific name of iron. So the boundary separating the mantle and the core is known as Gutenberg discontinuity. And this name was given after the German geophysicist Benno Gutenberg. And the temperature of this core, can you believe, children, how much it is? It ranges between 3000 degrees Celsius to 6000 degrees Celsius. So besides such a high temperature, the core experiences extremely high pressure. And the metallic nature of the core, it is, we can say it is providing also magnetic properties to the earth. Okay. And the core has two layers. Here you can see the solid inner core and the liquid outer core. So the outer core comprises semi-solid rocks and the inner core is solid. Because of extremely high temperature, inner core is still solid. Can you guess it why? Though temperatures here are the highest and the pressure of the overlying layers keep the rocks in a solid state. So the two factors are responsible for the solid state of the inner core, the high temperature and the high pressure. And now we are moving to our next topic, children, which are rocks. Okay. So the first question is, what are rocks? This is our next topic, rocks. So what are rocks? Let us see first of all here, what are rocks? The rocks are natural masses, minerals found on the crust of the earth. They consist of one or more minerals, and they also include the hard as well as compact rocks, okay, such as marble, granite, diamond, and loose particles like clay, mud, sand, etc. And rocks may have different colors, sizes, shapes, texture, hardness, softness, luster, composition. So these are the special features of the composition of the rocks. Now rocks are made up of minerals, and minerals are naturally occurring chemical compounds. A mineral is an inorganic substance. Okay, a mineral is an inorganic substance that contains one or more elements that are having specific physical and the chemical properties. And the study of minerals is known as mineralogy. Quartz, feldspar, mica, etc. They are some of the common rock forming minerals. Rocks containing a particular metallic mineral in large quantities are called ores. And examples are bauxite. For example, bauxite, it is an ore of aluminium. Okay, similarly, hematite is an ore of iron. So now children, we are going to read about the classification of the rocks. So based on the formation, appearance, composition and the type of minerals constituting them, rocks have been classified or categorized into three major groups, which are igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic. And these rocks are classified under each group. They are having differences in color, hardness, density and other physical and chemical properties. So the first kind of rock is igneous rock. Igneous. So we should know first of all what is the meaning of igneous. The term igneous is derived from the Latin word. Okay, the term it is derived from the Latin word ignis, which means fire. So deep below the earth's surface, we are having the molten state of the rocks, which are called magma. Okay, and when this magma, it cools down, solidifies, it forms a very hard rock known as igneous rocks. So rocks formed by the cooling and also by the solidification of hot lava and the magma beneath the earth's interior also and outside the earth's external part also. Such kind of rocks are known as igneous rocks. So now we will read in detail also that igneous rocks are formed in two different processes. Okay, and in two different places also, beneath the earth's interior as well as on the earth's exterior. And these rocks are still taking new forms due to volcanic activity. So due to volcanic eruptions, these igneous rocks are formed. And since they were the first rocks to be formed, they are also known as primary rocks. And our lithosphere, okay, where do we all live and where we have formed, constructed our houses, our schools. Our lithosphere is originally composed of primary or igneous rocks. And due to certain internal, external, natural processes like volcanic eruptions, these rocks, they undergo many changes, they undergo many processes, and many of these, that is why, are transformed into what we are having today, the second and third category of the rocks, which are sedimentary and metamorphic. So we can say that our second and third kind of rocks, that is sedimentary, metamorphic rocks, are formed from our primary rocks only, which are the igneous rocks. So lava is a molten material which reaches on the earth's surface through volcanic vents. Now vents, what are vents? It is a tube-like structure, or the cracks are there or the fissures are there. So igneous rocks are formed in this manner only. Now let us read in more detail what are the two types of igneous rocks. So on the basis of solidification of lava, okay, and the cooling of lava, the igneous rocks can be divided into two groups, as you can see here. These are intrusive igneous rocks, which are known as, here we'll see, intrusive igneous rocks, which are also known as volcanic rocks. And the first is extrusive igneous rocks, which are known as volcanic rocks. And intrusive igneous rocks are known as plutonic rocks. Plutonic. Okay. So the first kind of rock is our extrusive igneous rocks. Extrusive. So how these extrusive igneous rocks are formed? So when the molten lava, it comes on the earth's surface, it cools down and becomes solid to form the rocks. So these type of rocks are called extrusive igneous rocks or volcanic rocks. Now they have a very fine grained structure, because as they are forming on the external part of the earth, so they get enough space to spread. So that is why they are forming very fine grained structure. Basalt is an extrusive igneous rocks, and the Deccan Plateau of India is made up of basalt rocks only. Deccan Plateau, that is our southern part of India. And these rocks form black soil, which is very best for the cotton cultivation. And the second kind of rock is our intrusive, as we can see here, intrusive igneous rocks. Now intrusive igneous rocks are also known as plutonic rocks. So what happens here, when the molten magma, it cools down, deep inside the Earth's crust only, the intrusive igneous rocks are formed or originated. So they are also called plutonic rocks. Example, granite. Granite is an intrusive igneous rock. And you must have seen at your home also, you must be having the grinding stones. Okay, grinding stones for making grinding the spices. Okay, grains also. So grinding stones are made up of granites. And these stones are used to prepare a paste also, or a powder of the spices and the granite. And now we are going to read about the second kind of rock, which is sedimentary rocks. So what is the meaning of this word sedimentary? So here the word sedimentary is derived from the Latin word sedimentum, which means settle down. It means settle down. So these rocks are formed by the sediments of other rocks which were broken through action, or the various weathering agents are there. Okay, and such as running water, wind, glaciers. So what are sediments? As sedimentary rocks are formed of sediments. So what are sediments? Generally what happens, children, from the mountains, the rocks, they roll down. Okay, they slide down, they fall down, they crack, they hit each other, and they are broken into small particles. Why does it happen? It happens because of the action of various weathering agents. Now here the means of weathering means breaking down of the rock pieces due to natural agents like running water, heavy rainfall, action of winds, action of glaciers. So because of these natural agents, what happens? The weathering of rocks takes place. Weathering means the breaking up of rocks takes place. So what happens from the mountains, the rocks, when they roll down, they crack, they hit each other, and they are broken down into small particles. Then these tiny particles of the rocks are only known as the sediments. These are known sediments. So when with the passage of time these sediments are transported, okay, they are shifted from one place to another place, and then they get deposited by the natural agents like wind, water, and when they get compressed also, and they get hardened also, and they form layers above each other, over each other. Okay, so these rocks are only known as the sedimentary rocks. So after compression and hardening processes, these rocks are forming the layers of rocks over each other over a large period of time. Okay, hundreds of years, thousands of years. So these rocks are only known as sedimentary rocks, and the sediments are deposited in different layers or strata. Layers means strata, which is also known as, that is why these rocks are also known as stratified rocks. Examples are sandstone, chalk, dolerite. These are the examples of sedimentary rocks. Okay, more examples you can see here: sandstone, limestone, shale, gravel, clay, conglomerate. These are also the examples of sedimentary rocks. So these rocks are rich in fossils. Fossils are the remains. What are fossils? Fossils are the remains of the dead plants, animals, and the other microorganisms which get trapped and buried into the layers of the rocks. So these sedimentary rocks are very rich in the fossils. And these sedimentary rocks, they constitute 70% of the rocks exposed of the Earth's surface. As we have read that fossils are found in the sedimentary layers, and because of the fossils only, petroleum, natural gas, coal are found in the layers of sedimentary rocks. Now after transformation, yes, examples already we have seen here: sandstone, limestone, clay, shale, coal. And coal is also kind of sedimentary rock. Now here you can see, children, the world of the rocks is very colorful. Rocks and minerals is very, very colorful. Now if I'll ask you the question, which is the hardest mineral on this earth? Can you guess it? What it is? It is the diamond. Then these are the igneous rocks. These are the various igneous rocks. Igneous rocks are generally black in color because they are formed of lava. These are sedimentary rocks. As you can see, the layers. Okay, the layers or stratas are there, which are formed with the passage of time over a period of 100 and 1000 years. Okay. So now we are moving to the third kind of rock, which is metamorphic rock. Now the word metamorphic, what do you mean by the word metamorphic? Yes. So the word metamorphic is derived from a Greek word which is known as metamorphosis, which means change of form. Okay? Here. So metamorphic is a word which is derived from the metamorphosis, which means change of form. And they are formed by the process of metamorphism of sedimentary as well as igneous rocks inside the earth's crust. So how does it happen? Let's see now. Now igneous and sedimentary rocks are buried deep inside the earth's crust, and they also undergo extreme heat and pressure. Then they completely change in the form and characteristics, and they become dense also, compact also, forming metamorphic rocks. So what are the natural processes or natural factors responsible for the formation of metamorphic rocks? The heat and temperature, heat and pressure, extreme heat and pressure. They become denser, they become compact also, because from this because of magma, because of the lower mantle, lot of temperature is passing to the igneous rocks, and from the above the surface of the earth, pressure is going into the pressure is exerting onto the rocks. So the changes occur due to volcanic activity, movements of the earth's crust, or due to heat and pressure deep inside the earth is responsible for the formation of metamorphic rocks. Okay. So after transformation, what happened? These metamorphic rocks, they remain in their place of origin only, they remain there only. And these metamorphic rocks are very hard as they do not have any empty space in them. Examples: marble, slate, gneiss, quartzite. Now these are very hard rocks. Okay, now let us see that what are the metamorphic rocks and igneous rocks. When they are changing into metamorphic rocks, what are they forming? Now examples, some of the examples of igneous rocks. Yes. Some of the examples of igneous rocks are, for example, granite. Granite changes into gneiss. Basalt changes into schist. Coal is changing into graphite. Okay. So these are the examples of metamorphic rocks. And sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks like sandstone is changing into quartzite. Then limestone is changing into marble. And clay is changing into slate. So this way, children, we have seen the usefulness of the rocks. So they are used for building roads, bridges, houses, and we use them in many games also. And potash, phosphorus that are used as source of chemicals, they are also found in the sedimentary rocks. And now, children, our next topics related to the rocks is rock cycle. Have you heard about the rock cycle? Just like as we have the water cycle, similarly rocks also have a cycle which is known as rock cycle. So rock cycle is a cycle of formation of the rocks. Now as till now what we have read, children, that igneous rocks are the parental rocks or the primary rocks, and all the rocks, they are materials, all these other rocks, materials, they are originating from the igneous rocks only. Now when these igneous rocks, when they are exposing to the weather changes, they break down into various small pieces. Rock cycle I am going to explain you in my second part of video. Okay.